Let me check YouTube real quick.
Let me see these names. These names are not on. Let's see something. We're gonna get started. I'm gonna apply the names. Hold on. Why names on?
Yeah, so we are live on YouTube. So
Awesome.
good.
Yes. So this is ADOS Atlanta. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we're gonna have a conversation today with Jason Boskey, who's running for seat 26 at the Georgia State House. That is Forsyth County. Is that correct, Jason?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome. So we're so glad to have you. Just a little housekeeping. If you all can like, share, and subscribe, that would be great. And please feel free to comment. We're on Facebook and YouTube. So let's get into it. Jason, can you please give us an introduction of yourself and give us a little history and why you want to run for the 26th seat
Okay.
of the
So,
state house?
well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate being on with you. My name is, like you said, my name is Jason Boskey. I'm a CPA. I'm running for House District 26. The main reason that I'm running for the House is this is the first time in at least 10 years that the people of Northeast Forsyth County have had a choice in November. Up until this point, the November election has been unopposed, at least since 2010 when they redistricted 26 to be part of Forsyth County as opposed to Hall County. I felt like that doesn't give people much of an opportunity to make a choice. You either have to pull a Republican ballot in the spring, or you don't have an option, and it didn't sit well with me. The Democratic population in Forsyth is growing, and so I felt like they needed a choice in November. And so that was the main reason why I decided to run. Uh, I the main parts of what I'll call my platform, but the things that I really talk about, the pillars, is education for people, the neurodiverse community, if you're familiar, which is ADHD, Asperger's, dyslexia, um, the I don't want to say diseases, but the conditions like that. That it only takes just a little bit of a tinkering with the presentation of the materials and the way you teach in order to have those people succeed. That it's near and dear to me because I was diagnosed as an adult with Asperger's syndrome. So that is something that is near and dear to my heart. The second big thing is trying to eliminate teen suicide and mitigating teen depression. It's a scourge that seems to be getting worse every year. I feel like we need to devote all the resources that we possibly can in the state to making sure that teen suicide is stomped under the boot, never to be seen again. And with it, you have to go with teen depression, and that whatever is causing the depression. I mean, some people say that it's the testing that the students have to go through, causing stress. Not to mention the bullying and the cyberbullying. Is everything okay?
Jason, hold on for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I got an echo.
Got some feedback?
Yeah.
Make sure you got YouTube muted.
Yeah. There you go.
Are we all set?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We're waiting on Ray to give us the go.
Okay. So, am I still there? Now I can't hear anything.
We hear you.
There we go. So I apologize for that. I don't know if that was on my end. It certainly seemed like it was.
Absolutely not.
All right. So continuing on, so teen depression, teen suicide, eradicate them, get rid of them. The third thing that I really want to push for is being a CPA and having worked in finance for 25 years is financial literacy for not just teens, but adults also. There seems to be this gray area about where you teach basic finances, how to balance a checkbook, how to do a budget, things like that. And so that's something that I think that we really need to start pushing for. Whether it should be in the schools or not, I don't know, because I think that you can do that through a public-private partnership. I know that you have certified financial planners, you have bankers, you have insurance brokers in the communities who might be better at teaching that, and be able to get more in depth with people rather than trying to shoehorn it into a class in school when school seems to have too many classes, it seems already. So, looking at financial literacy, you're talking about, can I buy this car? Is it gonna mess with everything? How do I manage my credit? What kind of insurance do I need on my vehicle? Is one of the things that I've seen people just don't understand. Should I rent or should I buy a house? How much house can I buy? What does everything mean with that? Those are things that I take for granted, having been in the industry for 25 years. But the reality is that not many people understand it, and it makes us prone to being the victims of fraud. And it is my opinion that more education is always beneficial. And then the last big thing that I try to push for is regulating internet, broadband internet as a utility, because in Georgia we have enough rural population that they deserve to have access to the information and access to the internet, as well as those of us in Atlanta or the suburbs or in Macon or Savannah or Valdosta or anywhere that you're going to see larger population centers. And so it's my opinion that in order to level that playing field as far as education goes, that you have to treat the internet as a utility. You have to say it has to be up a certain amount. You have to be able to get a certain amount of bandwidth, and it has to be reasonably priced, because without those, you're not really going to be able to succeed unless you are in the more densely populated areas. And so coming from having lived in Blairsville and Blue Ridge the first 10 years I was in Georgia, I found that it's necessary to put that regulation in place. So those are the 4 pillars that I push for. But the thing that I think drives why somebody would want to vote for me is because I consider myself a pragmatist and a technocrat. So I'm looking at everything as a problem that needs to be solved. So I don't subscribe to a policy first and then find, or a better way of looking at it, subscribing to a solution first and then finding a policy for it to fit in. I look at the issue first and then find the right policy for that issue. Okay, and if you can hit a couple birds with one stone, then that's all the better. But that's how I look at governing. That's how I've done things in my job, and I've been successful. And that's what I want to bring to the state house. I mean, even though I would be elected by the people of Northeast Forsyth County, I'm really working on behalf of the entire state. So to me, bringing that approach to the state is extremely important, right? And with the pragmatism, I apply that to everything, not just the 4 pillars that I brought up before. Every issue that comes before me, that's the way I treat it. Is what are we trying to solve? What's the best way to solve with the least amount of harm done? So that's really the best way to describe me. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. I came down here in 2007, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be leaving anytime soon. So I like Georgia. I like the direction that it could be going, and I'm glad to be here. So that's my spiel. So from there, ask you guys what you got for me. What are you thinking?
Well, I had a question as far as so you came down in 2007.
Yeah.
Were you aware of the history of Forsyth County as it relates to the racial past, and are you aware of it now?
When I came to North Georgia, the other side of the mountains in 2007, and I was not aware of the past in Forsyth other than the Oprah the Oprah episode happened. When I moved to Forsyth, I became aware of what happened in the early 1910s, where after the lynching, that all of the black population was driven, for all intents and purposes, from Forsyth County, and the land was expropriated by the locals afterward. And so I am aware of that, and that obviously that did not play a role in me deciding to move to Forsyth. But if I can be part of the atonement for what occurred, then I'm glad to be here. If the county itself can't realize that atonement needs to occur, then at some point I might have to say I can't be among a community like that, because one of the big things for me with American history in and of itself is atonement for what it's done. Right? We can't just say yay American exceptionalism. We have to prove that we're exceptional, and one of the main ways to me of proving being exceptional is being able to atone for the sins of your past in a way that is appropriate today. So, does that answer your question as far as Forsyth goes?
It does. It does. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your opponent in the race? He's a Republican.
Yes.
Give us a little bit more info on him.
So Lauren Mcdonald, I don't know Lauren Mcdonald. He reached out to me right after the primary to introduce himself, and time got in the way, and I didn't get a chance to reach back out to him. So I don't know too much about him, other than he's what I would call a scion, in that his father is a public service commissioner, is actually running against Daniel Blackman in the upcoming in the November election. And so so he has been the county coroner in Forsyth for a while, and he is he's been trying to get to the Gold Dome for several election cycles, and finally he ran into a situation where he didn't need to run against anybody in the primary, and he was able to walk through. And so I've got an uphill battle against him. I'm not going to run a negative campaign. Neither of us is an incumbent, so it's hard to be negative about somebody that really doesn't have much of a record. A county coroner doesn't have much of a record. I mean, he could probably look at some of my Facebook posts and things like that and say, "Ooh, dirty socialist" or something like that, and I could probably go and say, he's. If I looked at his stuff, I could probably find things having to do, because his family is very much about the current administration. But beyond that, I don't know too much about him, other than he is in step with the current presidential administration.
Welcome to Georgia.
Exactly.
So
go ahead, Trish.
No, I was going to say, so you were talking about atonement, and our our whole platform is reparations. What's your take on reparations for the descendants of slaves in America?
Well, I was expecting to do this a little bit later. This interview could be over real fast. So my personal position on the matter is that America has to do something. Okay. Chattel slavery in America went on for 345 years or so. You go from 1619 until 1865. Not 345 years. And the promises that were made were not kept. And so in my opinion, something needs to be done for that. But just as much, it's not, for me, it's not just about atoning for that time in our history. It's also about atoning for the time from 1865 until, let's say, I mean, you could say 64 with the Civil Rights Act, but I mean, really, you could go until today now with how things are going. Because and this is my opinion. It's in just my opinion. Every time the black population began to progress and succeed, it seems like something was done that kicked that progress out, right? I mean, the best example and the most well-known example right now, and I don't have to tell you guys, but Tulsa, right? And for me, one of the things that I struggle with is my family, let's see, 7 of my great-grandparents and 15 of my great-great-grandparents did not get here until the 20th century. So I am the classic person who could say, wait a minute, I had nothing to do with it. My family wasn't even here yet. I don't care, because whether you want to say it's white people or not, you can, because white people were in charge. But the fact of the matter is, it was America. And what America does is done in our name. And with that being the case, we should feel responsibility to atone for the things that America has done. And so anything to that effect that will lead to atonement, which I think should be some form of reparations. I don't know what that form would look like, because
Don't worry, we got you.
You got me. Because I mean, there's no like leader of the white people and leader of the black people to negotiate something like that, right? So I don't know what it would look like, but you've got me. So Larry, I'll be looking forward to hearing that one. But something needs to be done in order to atone for our past. And only through atonement like that, to me, can we truly be exceptional, right? So the other thing about it is, my personal opinion is that the American experience is different than almost anywhere else, because everywhere else in the world, it seems, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a historian, I'm an accountant, but each culture, for the most part, has its own sovereignty, right? If you go into Europe, every cultural group has its own sovereignty, right? I mean, whether it's the people of Luxembourg or Germany or France or the countries in Eastern Europe, Yugoslavia broke up over it, basically, right? The United States of America had the opportunity to, after 1865, to welcome into its culture the freed slaves, and it chose not to, resulting in my opinion, and you guys can tell me I'm wrong because I'm just a white boy, a whole new culture that was forced to coalesce separate from the hegemony of the United States. And to me, that means that the United States of America has only two options. Either fully integrate, not assimilate, but integrate the culture, or like, I'm going to quote Malcolm X, liberation. I mean, I don't see how you can do America without going down one of those two paths. And in order to do integration, you have to be willing to accept that we are not going to be a melting pot. We are going to each have our own separate culture, and that's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah, it is. Viva la différence.
Yeah, exactly. So, so circling back to your question, was your question answered?
Yeah, my question was answered.
Okay. I want to make sure, because I don't want to do the politician thing and pivot away and go talk about something else.
No, that was fine. All right, so it's at the 22nd hour mark, and are we going to go over who we are?
Real quick, you said, Jason, you said that you're going against a Republican. Everybody know Forsyth County is, super red. So what's your plan? What's your path to victory? What's your, how do you see you winning against your opponent, the Republican?
So let's be clear. It is an uphill battle. Generally, I mean, if you look at how my district voted for state senate in 2018, it was about 75-25 Republican.
How many votes?
I would have to look. I don't have that number off the top of my head. Probably should, but I don't. So now we've had a very strong primary, in that we had, I want to say, we expected about 2,500 votes in the primary for me, and we got about 3,500. So we had a stronger showing than we expected, including people who in the past had voted Republican pulled a Democratic ballot, which was very, heartwarming to me. But COVID-19 really made it difficult for me, because selling the pragmatic point of view and making it so that people don't realize, or people realize that Democrats aren't crazy socialists, is a difficult issue. However, what I have found is that when I have spoken to Republicans, right, individually, I have been able to convince them that Democrats aren't the next coming of Fidel Castro, and that we are looking for, at least fiscally, we're looking for the same things, because a lot of Republicans do vote Republican strictly on their pocketbook. And so my goal, as far as Republicans go, was to try and convince the pocketbook Republicans that they could trust a Democrat with their money. I'm pragmatic. I'm a CPA. I can do budgeting. I understand how money works. And so the fiscal issues that affect the state, that's what I was trying to sell. And then for those who do not necessarily lean Republican, convince them of the fact that the direction that I want the state to go and the country to go is the right direction. And that's one of the weird things about what I've learned in this is, you have to tailor a little bit what your emphasis is. So, and then of course there are going to be the people within the county who, just because I have the D after my name, are going to say forget it. There's just no way around it.
I was going to ask, have you thought about running as an independent? Because there's in Forsyth County.
That could potentially be something to do. But right now, the Democratic Party and I line up as far as the issues that we see. And so I feel like it's appropriate that I run as a Democrat. The moment that the Democrats don't line up with me, I leave the Democratic Party, right? I'm not a Democrat because of wanting to be part of the club or the heritage or anything like that. A lot of people, they become part of the political party, gets passed down by generations. That's not me. I'm way too pragmatic for that. I'm way too intellectual for that. The moment that the Democrats don't comport to what I think is right is the moment that I leave the Democratic Party. Trish, you were going to say something.
You could run as a Republican.
Yeah, I would.
A moderate Republican or
I'm saying
Republican.
They run as Democrats, and they're
not.
I
mean, you're right. I could run as a Republican. But like I was saying, where the Republicans want to go with the country, which to me is basically standing still to slightly backward, does not comport with my position.
I know who you are. I'm just saying, because they do the same thing. Like,
I know.
We talk to politicians all the time, and we'll ask them questions, and I'm like, why are you running in this Democrat?
Yeah.
You're obviously a Republican. I'm just saying, do the same thing. That's all.
So, Jason,
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
How many votes do you need in November to win, or approximately?
I believe my number is. I want to say that I calculated my number to be 22,000. So, I think that that's right. I would have to pull up the spreadsheet.
Okay.
I don't carry the number in my head all the time. I probably should. There are a lot of things. I'm a first-time candidate, so there are a lot of things that I probably should do that I don't. But that's what I think it is.
Okay.
All right, Ray, where we at now, brother?
Well, we were gonna break down, give a little insight on who ADOS is, and we'll go from there. So I'd like to hand it off to you, Brother Larry. Go ahead.
All right, let me pull up let me share my screen just a moment. Hold on.
You're holding.
Share screen, yes. Let me know when y'all can see it.
I was off, by the way. My number is 13,000.
Okay.
Which is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
I was gonna say, man, the black population there, we looked it up. We're looking at around, I think it's around 9,000 or 10, close to 10,000. You may. Do you have a plan to go in and kind of, talk to the black community in Forsyth County, or is it just too spread out?
The issue that I have is that I am reaching out to the black community in my district as much as I can, but in my district, the actual the number in my district is actually less than 1,000.
Okay.
So because to understand my district on the eastern border is Lake Lanier. So I'm in the northern portion that's practically Dawson County. So
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the black population in Forsyth has a full slate of candidates that they can support. That they don't have to vote for me. They can vote for others, particularly Natalie Busco and Krista Olenczak, who are in 24 and 25, and that's where the majority of the black population in Forsyth is. So hopefully they'll bring them. Hopefully they can help them get over the top, even if the number isn't big enough for me. But I'm still reaching out.
Okay. Cool. All right, you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
All right, we're gonna just go through this PowerPoint real quick. Should take 10 minutes or less.
Okay.
Just to let you know who we are, what we're about, and our agenda. You know, we let all the politicians we talk to, we give them this information. Because you never know, Mr. Boskey, you know, you might be president one day. So we got to let you know all about us and who we are and our agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So ADOS, as you know, stands for American Descendants of Slavery. And so this is all about our identity. We're trying to shift the dialogue from you know, since forever. In America, it's been all about skin color and race. But since the passage of the Immigration Act in 1965, the country has gotten a lot more diverse. So it's important now for African Americans, ADOS specifically, to be more specific, because the minority category is not like it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Even 90s, the minority category is very vast right now. So we have to carve out our own identity. What is ADOS about? We seek to reclaim and restore the critical national character of the African American identity and experience, one grounded in our group's unique lineage, and which is essential to our continuing struggle in social and economic justice in the United States. Even post-slavery, we had the black codes, we had convict leasing. You know, we just had the whole thing with Jim Crow.
Peonage.
Yes, Tulsa, like you mentioned earlier, Jason, Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was a similar incident.
It was
Yeah.
also Oklahoma. It was Ocoee, Wilmington, Chicago,
Yeah.
Rosewood. Like it was like 20 different.
Yeah, it was. Even when we tried to do for ourselves, they destroyed. You know, they destroyed what little we had. You know, promises was broken. 40 acres was in the mule was taken back. Freeman Borough. So I mean, we can go on and on. So with that history, we got the GI Bill, the Homestead Act of the 1930s.
All of them. Mm-hmm.
All of it cut us out largely.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that did is lead to the wealth gap, which we have today, which you see on the screen here in 1983. I mean, though it was super wide in 1983, you know, it was a little closer because white wealth wasn't as much as it is now. But as you keep going down the line in the 2000s, right here in the mid 2000s, well, not the mid 2000s, around was like about 2008. Oh Lord, that's Obama. You see that black wealth was at 10,400. That was actually the highest on this chart since '83. But then, as you see, though, even though black wealth was only at 10,000, white wealth went up high to all the way to 161,000. This is per household.
Right.
And so then we only had 10,000, and that went down. So that even went down, and that was like around 2015 or so. So right now, you have a gap of ADOS, or you know, African Americans. They didn't quite. We want to be completely honest. They didn't quite break it down to ADOS. It did say black and white, but since ADOS is the vast majority of blacks in America, we are at around 1,200 wealth per household for the black household, and whites are at 122,000.
So can I Can I interject? Because the chart that we're looking at now is the median wealth, but Dr. Darity has broken it down to the mean, and the mean is a difference of 800,000.
Right.
That's a major. That's not a gap. That's a chasm. Like,
Yes.
I don't know what to call. That's a black hole. That's what that is.
Right.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
And they have a study that the studies by 2053, a little wealth that we do have, African Americans are projected to go down to zero by the year 2053. So we going backwards.
And that was before COVID.
Yeah, so you might as well just accelerate that.
So basically, there's like $100 trillion of wealth in the United States, and white people, who are about 66% of the population, own about over 90% of the wealth. We're about 13 to 14% of the population, and we have 2.6% of the wealth. That was before COVID, but go on.
Yes, and in this screen we have the median household net worth by race and education. Well, I'm not going to go through the whole chart, but the main thing I want you to see here is that white high school graduates have more wealth than black college graduates. So even if you are African American, black, especially ADOS, if you go to college, graduate, and you get a decent paying job, as far as our wealth level, we still won't have as much wealth as a white high school person with a high school education.
Right.
And here is this. And here is less than high school education. So it's actually a high school dropout right here, 82,000. Black college graduate, 18,000.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that's generational.
Yes.
Of course, yes, correct.
Yes, because they're starting with wealth, we're starting with debt.
Right.
So, yeah, I saw an article in I don't know if it was Business Insider or Bloomberg or somewhere. So this white woman, she was like 30 years old, and she was just elated because she was able to pay off her college debt. She said that her goal was to pay it off in 1 year. So what she did was she moved from DC to like somewhere in Illinois, and her mom gave her a job in her mom's 501c, whatever.
Yeah.
Making the same thing she was making in DC, but now she's in Illinois. So during that time frame, the woman got married, and so her mom gave the newlyweds a new condo, paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then she decided that wasn't enough to not have to pay rent or a mortgage, so she rented out the condo, so she had that income, and then moved in with her grandmother and had no bills. And so she was able to pay off her student debt in 3 years. And then at the end of it, she said, if I can do it, anybody can. And I'm thinking, no, ma'am.
Right.
No. It's just ridiculous. Like the stuff like her mom bought the condo with cash, number one. Move in with your grandma and live rent free. Who? Where? So, yeah. Stories like that. So,
yeah. And here's just a quick report of a few cities, major cities in the United States of wealth. What I like about this chart, it just shows us U.S. blacks against other black immigrants. Right here, we have this at the top here. We have Los Angeles right here, Miami in the middle, and Boston at the end. Now, if you follow Representative Ayanna Pressley on Twitter, you would see tweeted out today. As you can see, I believe the whites in Boston are at 250,000, and blacks are only at $8. Even though ADO has been talking about that for like I don't know for years. She's just tweeted that out for some reason. So, but let's go to the black immigrants here. Under Los Angeles here, you see that U.S. blacks is at $4,000, and black immigrants is at 72,000. Miami, U.S. blacks 3,700. Black immigrants at 12,000. You know, we're not saying 4,000 and 37,000 are a lot, but we saying we've been here a lot longer. We're not saying it's 12,000. We're not saying the 12,000, 72,000. You know, 12,000 and 18,000 are a lot, but we're saying we've been here a lot longer. We should have a lot more wealth than this. And in Boston, black immigrants 18,000, and U.S. blacks in Boston $8. I don't even know how that's possible. I mean, we know how it's possible, but it's just
right.
It's just sad. And this is why we need reparations. And when it comes to wealth here, we just went over the wealth data, and this is a heat chart of assets here.
Right.
The green is for mutual funds. You got stocks. I think blue is dark blue is real estate and business interests, and yellow is retirement and vehicle. Now, this here on the left it says 10,000. One on the left here from the top, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million. Then you got billion already at the bottom. We ADOS, we at the very top. We in this 10,000 bracket here. And you can see that most of our assets are in our homes, our primary residence, and our vehicles. And vehicles, I mean, that's depreciating assets. So, I mean, can you really count that? And we got a little bit in retirement, but, you know, the majority of that is in our older baby boom
generation. You can't pass it down, so who cares?
Oh, yeah. And that's in our older baby boom generation. You know, me, I'm a not a Gen X, but a millennial. So I'm not getting. I don't even know what a pension is. What is that? They used to say they used to get that back in the 70s and 80s. You know. So, but you also see that the more money you have, the more of your assets are in things that can be passed down, like real estate, business interests. So you can see the pattern here. Mm-hmm. Here's the green. Here is liquid. So yeah. So we're not going to get ADOS large is not going to get any inheritance for the most part.
Right.
And here's for your own time. You want to educate yourself about the history of ADOS. Dr. William Darity, he has a PhD from MIT. He's an economist. He's been working on reparations for decades, and finally earlier this year, he released this book, From Here to Equality.
Okay.
So just when you get a chance, just go pick up this book and read it. Our website is ados101.com. It has our Black agenda and also our reparations information on there.
Okay. Thank you.
And just a couple more slides here. Here are something that ADOS is pushing on a national level right now. Have you heard of HR 40, or do you know what it is?
I do not. So I'm learning right now.
No. I'm gonna let somebody else want to explain it while I rest my mouth.
It's a reparations bill that's in Congress. It's been there since like 1989. It needs to be edited because right now all it is a slush fund for different organizations like NARC and NCOBRA to get millions of dollars. Like they want GS 18 jobs or GS 20, I don't know what it is, but like they want to make $200,000 a year to run a fund and quote unquote study why we need reparations ad nauseum, ad infinitum, till infinity and beyond. And then, um, and then if by chance we ever get anything, they want to be in charge of said fund. No, that's not how it's going to work. That's not how it worked with the Japanese, and we're not going to do that with us either. So we want that bill edited. Like this bill is like 12 pages of bull, and every other bill on reparations would be like 50 something pages. So there are 6 specific things that we want done. And again, just to summarize, it's because it's a slush fund and we're not having it. So
Yeah.
Congress, of course, doesn't want to change it, and it's been the same. Well, no, they added the slush fund in what Dr. Darity said, like 2015, 2016, and now they're trying to push it through because of the energy of ADOS, and we're like, no.
So
So
we
go ahead.
oh, sorry, Trish. You can go ahead and finish up.
No, I was going to say, so we want it edited, or if it's not edited, it's not going to make it through the Senate and kill it. We're fine with that. I personally just don't think it's going to make it, and just let it die, and we'll make our own. So we
Yeah,
ask politicians to champion our request to our demand to to edit that bill.
yeah. And these are the things that we want in it. Experts only, no pay for commissioners or their organizations. Um, eligibility criteria right now is like they just got like black people in there. We need to be more specific.
Right.
It needs to be for ADOS and not for all black people who just got here in 1980 and 1990. No.
Right.
um, and Dr. Darity, America was officially formed in 1776. So instead of going from 1619, we are going from 1776 to present day. Our claim is to the United States government. The United States government was formed in 1776. We want an effective racial wealth gap redress solution. So it just can't be reparations just for give us something. It has to be something that actually closes the racial wealth gap.
That 800,000 median gap. That's what we
Yeah.
want closed.
Yes.
Not median mean. I'm sorry. So yes.
And an 18-month timeline. We don't, you're not about to get in there 3, 4, 5 years and not get nothing done. You got 18 months. We really don't even need to study. We already know what it is, but we're going to be nice and give you 18 months. So these are our demands. So what we've done, we've had ADOS all across the country to contact their representatives and also the subcommittee in DC to submit this to them, and hopefully something happens. If they don't edit it like Trish said, then we're gonna shred it and write a whole new one, HR 41 or something. All right. Here's the American. Here's what you have to be. Here's what this is about our identity. Another initiative that we have going on a national level is that we are working to have our own designation, our own ethnicity. So in order to be ADOS, you have to be your race has to be black. Your nationality has to be American. Your lineage, descendants of slavery, and that's it's descendants of slavery. That's in the United States, and your language has to be English. So this is the criteria for the be ADOS ethnicity. So we're fighting to get our own ethnicity. We don't have anything against any other black groups in America, but we do have a unique history in America. We fought in every war. We went through blood, sweat, tears. We went through hell in this country, and we were never paid properly. We were never paid at all. So we want recognition for that, and we want redress. And this is some of the things that that once we get our
Designation.
identity, our designation, then you have institutions, government institutions have to recognize us for all the contributions that we made. Like I just mentioned, slavery, Jim Crow, all of that, and the U.S. Department of Labor has to count us correctly. The census has to count us correctly. Somebody has to say what is going on with ADOS. They have to come in and check, look at our numbers, look at our wealth level, and see is this specific group improving? So, Director or Office of Management and Budget, Secretary of Commerce, all these different government organizations will have to account specifically for ADOS. All right, I think I just went over here our legislative agenda for ADOS, National Color of Wealth Study to disaggregate data. That means that African American we want ADOS separate from the other Black groups. We don't want to be included because if you look on the census now, they have Black American, then they have like under that one you have like Nigerian, African American, but we want to take that even farther and have ADOS in there. Federal designations we just talked about edit or shredded, we just talked about, and we would like representatives to support state and local efforts for equity for ADOS. And that is what we are all about. You gonna say something, Trish?
No.
Oh, okay. Why is my thing doing that?
I don't know.
Let me get that off.
All right, there we go. Oh, what? How long you been gone, man? I said I left the man.
All right, I'm back. I thought I got booted.
Nah, we gonna do it like that. So, what do you think, Jason?
I think that I would like a copy of that PowerPoint. I couldn't read it fast enough. There's a lot of heady information in there. One thing I will say is that I like on that, just off the top of my head, on that last page where it says equity, not equality, because they're two different concepts. Theoretically, equality is under the law, but that's not what you're talking about here. You're talking about equity of opportunity, equity for what has been done in the past to you and by you, negative and positive respectively, to be brought forward, for lack of a better term, from a wealth perspective. And one thing that I will say is that I appreciate where you guys are going with ADOS as an ethnicity, because it is imperative to me that each distinct culture that has been developed within this world be recognized on its own merit, right? Rather than talk about race, to talk about it as ethnicity, which to me is much more about the culture that has been developed than it is anything having to do with the amount of melanin or the size of my feet or anything along those lines, that tie me back to Eastern Europe. So, one of the things I said to somebody just a couple weeks ago was, my great grandparents came from Hungary, And as much as I like to say I'm Hungarian, I'm not Hungarian. I'm American. I'm 3 generations here. I have fully immersed in the culture here, and even learning the Hungarian language is not going to make me Hungarian. And so it doesn't necessarily have to do with genes. To me it's the culture and the common hardship that you've gone through that defines the grouping.
Right.
So I mean, as far as the things that I saw in there, I mean, I would have to study it more, but a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, I find enough of it compelling to want to learn more.
Yeah, are you on Twitter? Yeah,
I am.
We recommend you follow William Sandy Darity.
Okay.
He's the economist that we, stuff that we don't just come up with this stuff out of the air. We have actual people who study this, who actually been doing this for decades and decades in economic and American history. So.
Now, is he the one who wrote the book that was mentioned in the?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be contributing to his proceeds because I'll be buying that book tonight.
Okay.
I don't think it's mentioned in the slide, but ADOS is the brainchild of Antonio Moore, who's an attorney out of Los Angeles and Stanford, and Yvette Carnell, who's a political analyst extraordinaire, who's been on the Hill, and an aide for different congressional members. So, like, this is their baby. We just
be sure to catch Yvette Carnell live tonight on YouTube at about 10:30.
Right, like she's amazing. Like they gave us all this information and wealth of, data, and we just started asking, like, okay, so we're poor. What are we supposed to do? Like, so that's how this grassroots movement started. So,
all right,
we'll make sure you get all those links, Jason, as far as Yvette Carnell's YouTube and Antonio Moore's and Sandy Darity's Twitter as well. Yeah. So your numbers guy, your fiscal guy, your pragmatic guy.
I try to be.
So before COVID, a lot of people were saying, United States ain't got no money. They can't pay y'all. They wasn't denying that we were old, but they were saying that there is no money to give. But we saw with COVID that they can bust out trillions of dollars overnight. So that's not an issue. So from a fiscal perspective, as far as the payout for reparations is concerned, and we're talking at least 17 trillion on the low end. From your fiscal mind, can you conceive the United States, take aside the systemic racism, can you conceive them being able to pay that, having the ability to pay that, whether they will or whether they won't? Can you conceive that?
I'm going to answer that in two ways. From a fiscal perspective, no, I don't. And the reason for that is because from a fiscal perspective, what would have to happen is that you would have to issue 17 trillion in debt, right? And that's a lot of debt. That would.
Now, Jason, we want to real quick. This is not going to be 17 million all at once. This is going to be over, it could be over.
Okay.
It could be over 10, 20, 30, 40.
Okay.
Not really. Let me
Trish wants it right away.
Let me say this, that the fund for 911 that nobody knows about, you have to go look it up. And if you read Dr. Darity's book, that's how I found out. Mm-hmm. The average payout was $2.3 million per person, up to $7 million, and that fund will be open until 2095. They're still paying people on the hush hush, but they're still getting paid. So, and nobody's saying, oh, we're going into debt. So Congress, like, the United States is a sovereign nation, and Congress creates money. Like, So, and quite frankly, we don't care how it gets paid. It's a debt. Our what we are owed is a debt. So how it gets paid and how they figure it out. And we've already talked. I mean, like Sheila Jackson Lee, when it was discussed, she just laughed. She's like, "We're not broke. This isn't a problem. Congress, we're sovereign. Congress writes a check and decides who's going to get what. That's how they, excuse my French, just shit $6 trillion in a matter of seconds."
Okay.
Right?
So, but this is what I'm going to say, right? Because I'm in the industry, all right? Fiscal and monetary are two different things. Fiscally, 17 trillion all at once, probably that you're never going to get the political will to do something like that. If you do it over time, that's something that could definitely be done fiscally, because when it's fiscal, you do have to borrow the money, you do have to pay it back. If you do it monetary, if you do it through the FRB, now you're talking about something that can be done. And to that end,
you asked the wrong question.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm like I said, I mean, I'm in the industry. 17 trillion over time. I mean, well, I mean, what was quantitative easing, right? Where the Federal Reserve kept buying securities in order to keep interest rates low to try and boost the economy.
And during COVID, they threw 1.3 or 1.6 I don't know, 1 point something $trillion in just 5 minutes one day. Just we got to boost the economy. And
well, and a lot of that was the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
Right? And so now I see one of the comments over here. I don't know if I'm supposed to address the comments. But I see one of the comments over here from A. Armstrong.
Jason, before you do, I just want to say, if anybody has any questions, can you please put it in the chat? We only got a few more minutes. So go ahead, Jason.
So what I want to say is, he said reparations is the longest overdue infrastructure project. One of the interesting things that I am certain no one thinks about when they're thinking about this, at least anybody who is discussing it from a congressional perspective and doesn't want to make it happen, is let's just say, for instance, you drop 17 trillion on 40 million people. How much of that is all that money going to go in the bank and just sit there? No.
Exactly.
That money's going to get spent. That's going to be there's a multiplier effect to something along those lines. I mean, one of the things that it's not part of my platform, but one of the things that I am a proponent of is the universal basic income, which is in essence helicopter money, because what that does is that gives people the ability to go out and spend. It boosts the economy, and it gives people the opportunity to live. Now you're talking about $17 trillion on 40 million. I'm making, I don't know if that's the right number. I think I saw that number in your in the PowerPoint. You're dropping 17 trillion on 40 million people. There's some spending that's going to go on. And so, I mean, how bad can it be in the long run for something like that? Because the tax money on that is going to end up paying at least some of itself back, right? That's the funny thing. Tax cuts don't pay for themselves, but generally stimulus or spending like that will. And so to A. Armstrong's point, and I guess without having seen Darity's point, he's agreeing with me. That's something that would be multiplicative within our economy. So I'm all for it.
Okay.
I wanted to read something from your Facebook right quick and see if you can comment on it. No, you good, man. I know you're a Second Amendment guy, but we're not ambushing you, bro. So you wrote, the goal of our elected officials has to be. We lost. Trish did that on her. Okay, my bad. The goal of our elected officials has to be to destroy the anxiety that is in place here and create a cosmopolitan society where every culture can exist free of fear of forceful extinction. Without it, as we see over and over, our position on way too many issues is based not on our own critical assessment, but is anchored in our cultural identity. Further, we do not have the empathy to understand the anxiety those not within our cultural identity have. This is across the spectrum. Too often I hear from people of all political and cultural identifications that they just can't understand where someone opposing them is coming from. No wonder we can't get bipartisan, cross-cultural buy-in. We have a choice. Bam. We have a choice, cosmopolitanism, where so long as a cultural more where so long as a cultural more isn't violating someone else's rights, it's left alone. And we are comfortable with integration without assimilation or nationalism, where we believe one culture should dominate all others. Can you give us a little those I like those words. Now, can you break down cosmopolitanism for people that might not grasp that? I found that
Yeah,
interesting.
what is
Okay. So when I'm talking about cosmopolitanism, and it is something that is very near and dear to my heart, it's the idea that you do not need one dominant culture in order to function as a society. So you can have multiple cultures all existing within their culture, and to the extent that the cultures intermingle, that is completely fine. It's not required, but it's completely fine. But no one is saying you have to be like this. So, as an example, you're with your haircut. In a cosmopolitan society, it isn't even thought that someone's going to say, if you want to come work at my bank, you got to cut your hair. That's just not even, and it's not even something that is forced by law. It's just, that's part of cosmopolitanism. You're okay with everybody how they are and how they live, provided it does not violate your own rights, right? I mean, the best way I can give an example is if you go back to the original Star Wars movie, the scene in the cantina where you have people from all over the galaxy just chilling, having a good time. There's some mingling, some not, but nobody cares. Everybody's cool with it. And so to me, that's the heart of cosmopolitanism, is that you don't require everybody to be part of what is the cultural hegemony, which is the dominant culture. That's one of the things that I believe is the only way to true American exceptionalism. Is we have three cultures that make up more than 10% of the population. Not one of them should dominate the other two, right? So with I'm going to use you guys as the culture. ADOS should not have to change anything in order to coexist with white America. Right?
How do you sell that? How do you sell that to white America? How do you make that case?
I've been trying to figure that out since the term cosmopolitan came to mind. And the struggle that I have is the fact that anybody can look anywhere else in the world and say, well, they don't have to, right? If you go to Britain or you go to England, you got to act English, right? You go to Germany, you got to act German. And the only other places that we have this problem, or that have, I shouldn't say it's a problem because it's not a problem. The only other places that have this are Israel and India, as far as I can see, and they're both not doing so well with it. So this is why I say that it makes us exceptional if we can get over our cultural anxiety on as far as white America goes and get there. And the only way that right now, the only way that I can think about it is as being possible to do is commingling without assimilating. Right? The more commingling that I think can occur in conversations like this, right, where you can have different viewpoints that come from different points, different views. I guess that was just redundant. And have a conversation, and everybody walks away, and nobody's like, oh man, they just don't get me, or I just can't understand them. If that's the case, you're okay with it, and you don't think that you're better as a result. And that's the big thing, is not thinking, or a better way of putting it, being okay, proud of your culture without feeling like you need to denigrate another one. To me. So, I mean, does that make sense? I mean, I'm trying to answer your question. I don't know that I am.
No, you did great
Okay.
answering that. Did anyone else have any questions?
No, I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Somebody just asked one here on Facebook.
Oh, Facebook? Oh, Lord, we're everywhere, huh?
Yeah, you guys are on Facebook. You're on YouTube. I'm surprised. So the question that was asked, if I'll go ahead and read it if you'd like. Taking the history of this country as it pertains to ADOS into account, is there room in the white ethos for an ADOS America that wants to be left alone, even if just for a while? It takes time to heal. All right. I can't. I am not the designated representative of white people. But speaking strictly for myself, it would make me extremely sad, but I would completely understand. One of the things that I have struggled with, going back to the idea of each culture, is whether or not the Black liberation, a sovereign nation, is the appropriate manner. I see you shaking your head.
Facebook user, who is that? He don't even got a name or a face.
No, we don't want a sovereign nation. America is the nation that.
And that's the way I would prefer it.
Good with that.
That's the way I would prefer.
You don't know who that person is, man.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. That's not.
Yeah,
it's about.
It says Facebook user.
Do that, they can do that outside of what we're doing, but that is not who we are. We
so
are
you do
American.
not. So you do not want to be left alone by white people.
No, we
to regroup, so to speak.
I mean, we want to be not harassed and killed and maimed, and
right.
But we're American. I want to live beside Americans,
and
I don't care. I don't care. Like before the oligarchs decided that we were white and black, we were living next door to everybody. And there was intermingling, and people were getting along where they weren't. So that is the America I want to live in, and I'm good with that. I'm
glad. Because that's the America I want.
We don't know who Facebook user is.
Okay.
That is not what ADOS is about. Like, if that's what they want to do, I don't have a problem with it. I'm live and let live, but not within this.
Okay. All right, Ray, what we got, man? Coming up on.
Well, I just want to say this is a great conversation. Okay, well, he's trying to clarify.
Yeah, I see that.
Mr. User says, not a sovereign nation. Please don't misunderstand. I meant, is there room enough for us to make our own space within our society? So he's saying within America, is there room for us to be able to, that sounds like Tulsa to me.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's saying, because every community has their own community. I
Yeah,
think that person is alluding to that.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think when
Go
you
ahead, Trish.
have wealth, you will create your own communities
Mhm.
because you want to. Like some
Right.
places you want to be with your own, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Absolutely.
I'm just a burbs girl in
So,
the city, so
and at the heart of cosmopolitanism, at least what I think of it as, that you have the ability to create your own spaces and intermingle as you want.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. But with wealth, we'll be able to do that.
mhm,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Well, look, Jason, you give me hope as far as the white community is concerned. Keep doing what you're doing. We consider ourselves the future of black politics. That's what we
Yes.
consider
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So hopefully you and your comrades
Don't use
be the
comrades.
future.
Don't use
Oh,
comrades.
okay, my bad. We don't want folks saying you social or communist. We don't even want that. You and your peoples. Hopefully in the future we could meet up and you represent the future of politics on your side, because I think we have more in common than we'd like to allude. Everybody just want to live their life at the end of the day. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate this conversation. Good luck in your race, and we'll definitely be in contact whether you win or lose. We definitely feel like you're somebody we need to be watching, and you might want to consider moving a little bit. It'd be great if you moved to a blacker side of Forsyth County. I'm gonna be honest with you, but hey, that's on you.
You know, I'll tell you what. You guys want to come up to Forsyth after COVID? I will be glad to cook for you. Just let me know, and I put seasoning in my potato salad. That's all.
Oh,
There you go. You don't put raisins in your
No
potato
raisins.
salad?
No, I don't put raisins in my potato salad.
this is some nonsense. Okay.
Oh man, I'm vegan, man. I'm vegan. I don't, I don't know if you know about that.
Okay.
But y'all have anything else, Trish, Larry? Okay. Thanks, Jason. You got any last words for your last political?
All I want to say is thank you guys for hosting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk, and I hope that we can continue the conversation.
Yeah. And don't forget about us when you make it to the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate and President.
If I can, trust me, I won't forget anybody. If my career in politics goes beyond this election.
Okay.
Oh man,
right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
We'll talk. This is ADOS Atlanta. Glad to have Jason Boskey, and we'll talk to y'all soon. See you next time. Like, share, and subscribe. And we are out. Peace.